A 12-year-old girl vanished from a county fair in 2013. The only trace left behind was a locked diary no one could open. The man last seen near her wore a volunteer vest, worked behind the scenes, and disappeared the same day, leaving no body, no evidence, just silence. 10 years later, a janitor cleaning out a trash bin found a brass key engraved with her initials, and it fit. Now, the diary speaks, and what it reveals flips the entire case upside down in a way no one saw coming. The air on July 27, 2013, carried a sticky kind of warmth that settled over Greene County like a heavy wool blanket. It was 82 degrees Celsius by late afternoon, and the sun had begun its slow descent behind the rows of tall pines bordering the fairgrounds. The annual Greene County Summer Fair had been open just 3 days, drawing families from surrounding towns with its worn Ferris wheel, funnel cake booths, and the gentle, creaking carousel that stood just west of the livestock pavilion. GPS coordinates later logged the scene at 35.5764 degrees N, 83.7360 degrees W, less than 5 miles outside the town of Corley. 12-year-old Hannah Winslow had arrived at the fair that day with her older cousins, Leah and Maddie, both 15. According to the ticketing records later retrieved from the fair's POS system, the trio passed through the west gate at 4:16 p.m. Multiple witnesses later confirmed seeing them laughing together near the cotton candy stand and again near the petting zoo. By 5:22 p.m., Leah texted their mother that Hannah had gone to buy a lemonade and would meet them at the carousel in 10 minutes. She never arrived. At 5:37 p.m., Leah sent a second text, "Where are you?" No response. 10 minutes passed, then 20. When Leah and Maddie retraced their steps, they expected to find Hannah in line at the drink stand or sitting on one of the carousel benches. But the girl was nowhere. A fair security officer, Rick Talbot, recalled 2 teenagers approaching him frantically near the carousel entrance around 5:58 p.m., saying they'd lost their cousin. Talbot logged the report into his notebook, but did not immediately contact law enforcement. It wasn't until 6:14 p.m. that the first 911 call was placed, by Hannah's mother, Carla Winslow, who had received a panicked call from Leah. Transcript: 911 call, 6:14 p.m., July 27, 2013. Dispatcher: 911, what's your emergency? Caller: Carla Winslow. My daughter is missing. She's 12 years old. She was at the Greene County Fair with her cousins and she's gone. Dispatcher: Ma'am, I need you to stay calm. When was the last time she was seen? Caller: over half an hour ago, near the carousel. Her name's Hannah Winslow. Please, she wouldn't just run off. She wouldn't. Dispatcher: we're dispatching officers now. Can you stay on the line? By 6:22 p.m., the Greene County Sheriff's Department had officers en route. Deputy Aaron Hales was first on scene, arriving by 6:29 p.m., already coordinating with fair staff to begin a soft lockdown of the park's exits. Over the next hour, sheriff's deputies and fair security scoured the grounds, focusing first on bathrooms, maintenance sheds, and behind game stalls. At 7:08 p.m., Hannah's father, Mark Winslow, arrived and joined the search. By 8:15 p.m., darkness had begun to set in. Floodlights were deployed, and the public announcement system repeated a call for Hannah every 10 minutes. Her physical description was broadcast over the loudspeakers. 12 years old, 4'10", wearing denim shorts and a yellow tank top with a pink butterfly. A pair of muddy footprints was found behind a row of vendor trailers near the western maintenance gate at 8:42 p.m. The soil was fresh, recently dampened by an earlier sprinkler cycle, and the prints led toward a rusted chain-link fence that bordered the service exit. No other markings, no drag lines, no blood. Investigators took plaster casts of the impressions, but no match was ever confirmed. The security cameras covering the area, it turned out, hadn't functioned since July 19th. Power issues. By 9:15 p.m., the fairgrounds were being cleared of visitors. Dozens of volunteers stayed behind to assist, flashlights and phone screens bobbing in the dark. Carla remained seated near the carousel, refusing to leave, clutching the stuffed pink frog Hannah had won earlier that day. Then, a call came through the sheriff's radio. A fair vendor had found something in a trash bin behind his booth. Something unexpected. It wasn't Hannah. It was her backpack, still zipped shut. At 6:12 a.m. on July 28th, the first search grid was officially mapped. The perimeter extended 2 miles beyond the Greene County Fairgrounds, bordered by Route 9 to the north and the Holcomb River to the south. Search crews included 24 deputies, 17 civilian volunteers, and 1 K-9 unit, a bloodhound named Miko, trained in scent trailing. The air was already thick with humidity, 74 degrees, and climbing fast. Visibility, moderate. Terrain, uneven, patches of tall grass, gravel, and dense oak thickets. Deputy Caleb Wren, overseeing Search Team Bravo, described it as a race against both time and terrain. Every hour that passed, the trail got colder, but we still had her scent. That was our hope. At 7:23 a.m., a team using handheld radios reported finding a hair tie, matching Hannah's, bright pink with silver glitter, near the back edge of the carousel structure. It was bagged and marked. Minutes later, Miko changed direction and led her handler along the gravel path behind the fair's maintenance barn. They halted at an open storm drain. Searchers lowered flashlights into the pipe, but the drain narrowed quickly, inaccessible without excavation equipment. No movement, no echo. By mid-morning, 2 drones were deployed, DJI Phantom 3 Pros with thermal cameras, scanning open fields for heat signatures, no matches. The Sheriff's Department also issued a BOLO alert for Hannah across 5 counties. At 10:41 a.m., Deputy Hales gave a press update. We are operating under the assumption that Hannah Winslow is still alive. Every available resource is being used. We are asking the public. If you were at the fair yesterday, please check your phones. Photos, videos, anything. You may have captured something without realizing it. That call to action spread quickly. By 1:15 p.m., over 300 photos had been submitted through a public Dropbox link created by the Sheriff's Office. Analysts began filtering through the images, checking for background figures, suspicious vehicles, anomalies. At least 4 showed Hannah, the last confirmed one taken at 5:17 p.m., standing near a balloon dart booth, mid-laugh, holding her frog prize. Behind her, a man in a green volunteer vest appeared to be walking away, face turned. That image would become critical. Meanwhile, phone triangulation records showed that Hannah's device had gone dark at exactly 5:31 p.m., shutting off or losing signal completely. Her phone was never recovered. By nightfall on July 28th, a second grid expansion was launched, this time with mounted patrols from neighboring counties and specialized search dogs flown in from Knoxville. The fair remained closed. Tension grew among volunteers, many of whom returned for a second night without rest. Still, no signs. The only thing recovered that evening was the stuffed pink frog, found lying on its side in a drainage ditch 50 yards from the first footprint site. It was damp, but intact. One deputy noted, "It didn't fall there. Someone placed it, like a message, or a mistake." As darkness fell again, the lead investigator, Sergeant Dane Hollis, faced the cameras for the first time. "We need the public's help. If you know something or saw something, no matter how small, now is the time. Comment HOPE if you'd search forever. Help us bring Hannah home." But by 10:12 p.m., a chilling reality had set in. Despite over 34 hours of searching, despite a massive effort, there was no trace of the girl, only that empty backpack. Day 3 began with low fog rolling over the open fields east of the fairgrounds. Visibility dropped below 300 feet until just past 7 a.m. Temperatures hovered at 69 degrees, with expected highs in the upper 80s. Despite the oppressive heat and mounting fatigue, the search effort expanded exponentially. At 8:12 a.m., the Tennessee Emergency Management Agency deployed an aerial FLIR team. Flying a Bell 407, equipped with a Colesman MX-15 infrared turret, the pilot began sweeping the wooded perimeter beyond the utility corridor near the southern end of the fair property. That area, nicknamed Dead Creek Woods by locals, had long been considered inaccessible, overgrown, thorned, and prone to sinkholes. Thermal imaging showed dozens of heat signatures. Most were dismissed: deer, raccoons, even a stray dog. But one anomaly held: a small, unmoving thermal mass, partly buried, roughly 4 long, hidden under brush near the edge of an abandoned livestock pen. Ground teams were redirected. By 9:46 a.m., 3 deputies approached the location, only to discover a half-deflated inflatable unicorn toy and an empty juice bottle, not Hannah. A collective breath, held in anticipation, let out slowly. Another dead end. By noon, a mobile command center had been established on the fairgrounds north lot. Satellite feeds, live maps, and phone record triangulations were projected in real time. Sergeant Hollis requested search teams begin knocking on nearby doors, expanding a 2-mile radius outward. Deputies were now working 16-hour shifts. The National Guard sent logistical support, tents, supplies, field kitchens. Civilian turnout grew as well. Church groups, Boy Scout troops, even tourists who'd planned to visit the fair, now joining shoulder to shoulder. Among them was Pastor Dave Ellison of Grace Lutheran. You think you'll never need to look for a child. Then you do. Then you can't stop. Meanwhile, the sheriff's office released a composite sketch of the man seen behind Hannah in the submitted fair photo. Details were scarce: light brown hair, green vest, sunglasses, but the vest was notable. Only authorized volunteers had them, and each was numbered. Vest No. 48. Records showed that vest had been issued to Jeffrey Linney, a 33-year-old grounds technician hired on contract to assist with trash removal and setup. He failed to return the vest after July 27th and hadn't shown up for work the following morning. A deputy visited Linney's listed residence in nearby Clinton Hollow. The house was vacant. His truck was gone. A bolo was issued. That evening, a WREG Channel 6 news segment aired a special report. The Greene County Fair search continues, now in its 4th day, as law enforcement intensifies efforts to locate missing 12-year-old Hannah Winslow. Authorities are now seeking Jeffrey Linney, shown here, in connection with new leads. The phone lines lit up. At 10:52 p.m., a woman called the tip line claiming she recognized Linney. He had been at her gas station, earlier that morning, buying 2 cans of gas and a pack of beef jerky. She had security footage. Timestamp 6:43 a.m. Vehicle, silver Ford F-150 with a cracked passenger mirror. Linney was now confirmed on the move. But where had he gone? And had Hannah been with him? The next morning, the sheriff's department would dispatch an urgent regional alert. But as of that night, she was still missing. By day 5, the Greene County Fairgrounds resembled less a place of celebration and more the control center of a national emergency. Bright tarps had replaced game tents. Booths once hawking caramel corn and corn dogs were now makeshift staging areas for evidence teams and volunteer check-ins. The carousel, once ringing with carnival music, stood still, cordoned off by yellow tape and watched by deputies around the clock. But while the search on the ground remained methodical, the media machine surrounding the case had spiraled into chaos. News crews from across the southeast arrived overnight. By morning, no fewer than 8 satellite trucks lined the entrance road, their dishes rotating in rhythm like vultures circling above. Network anchors had taken up positions just outside the fair's main gate. Greene County Sheriff's staff had to erect barricades to separate journalists from grieving family members and exhausted volunteers. Inside the county's hastily assembled media tent, a sweltering white structure powered by 2 whining generators, Sheriff Alan Eames gave his 3rd daily briefing. We are expanding the radius another mile outward. Every sector will be rechecked. We are reviewing dozens of tips and over 450 public photo submissions. But I must remind the public, false or speculative claims take time away from real leads. Please, verify before you speak. But the message came too late. By 10:17 a.m., an unverified Twitter account claiming to belong to an anonymous cousin of Hannah's posted that she'd been kidnapped by a family friend who had helped fix their air conditioning weeks before. The post had no evidence, no name, no photo, but within 23 minutes, it had been viewed over 700,000 times and picked up by at least 2 click-driven national blogs. That afternoon, officers were forced to question 2 separate HVAC contractors who had serviced the Winslow home that summer. Both were cleared within hours. Both received threats online the same day. At 11:04 a.m., another distraction emerged. A man in a flowing linen shirt and wooden bead necklace introduced himself at the checkpoint gate as Clay Rollins, a self-described psychic from Nashville. He claimed to have felt Hannah's fear in a dream and said she was near water, underground, wrapped in stone. Deputies dismissed him, but a desperate civilian team captain, exhausted and frayed, authorized a small team to check an abandoned storm basin east of the parking lot. It was empty. Only dead leaves, trash, and old beer cans. Worse, that detour delayed a scheduled sweep of the Pinewood Motor Lodge, a decaying roadside inn, known locally for its hourly rates and boarded-up rooms. By the time officers arrived, the room in question, 118, had been rented, cleaned, and occupied again. "We lost the window," said Deputy Erica Long. "We might never know what was there the night before." Then, a potential breakthrough. At 1:23 p.m., a 17-year-old fair vendor named Kyle Dorman came forward. Nervous, chewing on his thumbnail, he told Deputy Hollis he'd seen Hannah get into a vehicle behind the cotton candy trailer at 5:30 p.m. on the day of her disappearance. It was a dark green Jeep. I think it had black rims. She looked unsure. The guy waved her in. I thought it was a dad, but something felt off. Deputies pulled him into the mobile command unit for a full interview. Under audio recording, Dorman said he'd seen Hannah holding her frog toy, that she'd paused, looked back once, and then entered the vehicle. He insisted it had no license plate in the front and smelled like oil. The lead felt urgent. Investigators rushed to check county traffic footage from the East Service exit. They reviewed timestamps from 5:15 to 6:00 p.m. No Jeep, no girl. When pressed again at 4:48 p.m., Kyle hesitated, then admitted he wasn't totally sure about the time or the color. By 5:11 p.m., after being confronted with inconsistencies, Kyle confessed he had fabricated part of the story. He admitted he'd posted a video about the case the night before and had gained over 9,000 followers overnight. "I didn't think it would go this far," he said. "I just wanted to help, and maybe get noticed." Sheriff Eames made a personal call to Hannah's parents that evening to apologize for the emotional whiplash. And then, another voice joined the fray. A 58-year-old woman named Loretta Caulfield, a reclusive resident from the outskirts of Townsend, called the hotline claiming she'd seen Hannah that morning. "She was walking along Bells Hill Trail," Loretta whispered. "Just a flash of yellow, a little girl, holding something pink. Then she ducked behind a thicket. I swear it was her." Deputies dispatched immediately. The area was steep, wooded, and slippery from recent rainfall. Searchers combed the area for nearly 2 hours. They found only a faded scarf, not Hannah's, and an old Hello Kitty lunchbox, its grapes rotting into mush. Once again, hope had opened its hand and slapped them in the face. Back at HQ, forensic analyst Janet Bremer scrolled through archived inventory records from 2013. She was looking for something missed, something in plain sight. That's when she found it. The volunteer vests, like the green ones seen on the man in the balloon dart photo, were part of a pilot safety initiative run by Greene County that year. Most vests were recycled after the program ended, their GPS tags removed to cut costs. But a few, due to human error, had been left untouched. One of them was vest number 48, the one issued to Jeffrey Linney. And that vest, unlike the others, had still been pinging. She dug into the system and found it, a final GPS coordinate recorded on July 27th at 5:39 p.m. Only once. Latitude 35.5738 Degan, longitude 83.7327 degrees in W. The exact patch of dirt behind the carousel, less than 200 feet from where Hannah's backpack was found. The signal never moved again. The next question wasn't where Jeffrey Linney had gone. It was what he'd done, before he disappeared. The storm came quietly on the morning of August 3rd, 2013, as if the sky itself had finally broken under the weight of unanswered prayers. Heavy sheets of rain blanketed the Greene County Fairgrounds, driving away what few search teams remained, soaking the carousel's chipped horses and pooling in forgotten boot prints behind the livestock pens. It was the first real break in the heat since Hannah Winslow had vanished. It was also the moment her case began to cool, quite literally and then procedurally. Water washed away what little remained at the outer search perimeter, footprints that had never been conclusively matched, bits of trash once marked possibly significant, and the thin layer of soil where a K9 unit had once barked sharply and then fallen silent. The scent trails dissolved. Drones couldn't fly in the winds, Helicopters were grounded. Even the press, so fervent in the days before, pulled back their crews to drier cities and fresher headlines. Inside the sheriff's mobile command post, investigators silently packed boxes. Markers labeled evidence with plastic tags: HWBP-01, backpack, HWFT-03, footprint cast, HWNB-02, notebook. The radio chatter had slowed. Fewer volunteers checked in, and Hannah's parents, Carla and Mark, sat inside their van watching the rain with empty thermos cups, unable to leave. It felt like she was slipping away a second time, Mark later said in an archived interview, only this time nobody noticed. In the weeks that followed, community support swelled, then receded. Over $83,000 was raised through bake sales, silent auctions, and local news features. Her classmates from Cedar Ridge Middle School taped cards to her locker, which remained sealed. A local printing shop made 3,000 flyers, and children were given pink buttons with a yellow butterfly, Hannah's favorite colors. But the leads, once streaming in hourly, slowed to a trickle. And then, nothing. August 12, 2013. Jeffrey Linney was officially classified as a person of interest, not a suspect. His face appeared on digital billboards across Tennessee, Georgia, and the Carolinas. Over 60 reported sightings were logged in the first month. None were confirmed. The silver Ford F-150, spotted on gas station footage, was never recovered. The VIN associated with his license was inactive. His phone had gone offline on July 27th at 5:36 p.m., just minutes after Hannah's last confirmed appearance. FBI involvement began on August 18th, with a behavioral profile drafted within 10 days. It detailed Linney's solitary lifestyle, his history of working seasonal contracts at festivals, and his lack of family. No criminal record, no known relationships, no traceable income since July. He lived like a ghost and disappeared like one, said Special Agent Kerrigan in a declassified segment. Despite repeated sweeps and FOIA petitions by journalists and true crime podcasts, Linney's paper trail ended in Corley. There was no record of border crossings, airline tickets, or passport activity. The man had simply vanished, either underground or into the silence of rural America. Meanwhile, at home, Carla and Mark Winslow struggled to live inside a house that felt like it had been robbed of air. In early September, during a quiet Sunday, Carla opened Hannah's bedroom door for the first time since the disappearance. On the dresser lay the pink diary, its brass heart-shaped clasp locked tight. Carla sat on the edge of her daughter's bed for 2 hours, staring at it, turning the book over in her hands. It wasn't just a diary anymore, she later said. It was a doorway, and I had no key. They tried dozens of keys from around the house, from Hannah's old toy boxes, her jewelry tins, even a spare lockbox in the garage. Nothing worked. The diary was turned over to investigators, who scanned it for fingerprints and DNA. Clean. A latent technician noted that the cover was wiped, likely by cloth or sleeve. Without a warrant to force entry, and with no threat of immediate danger, the lock remained intact. The diary was tagged and boxed, HWDY01. It sat in the Greene County Sheriff's Evidence Vault, Shelf 6, Bin 14, July 27, 2014, 1 year later. The carousel was reopened to the public, cleaned, repainted, and rechained. A vigil was held that night. 412 people attended, many holding candles in silence. A local pastor offered a prayer. Carla read a letter. I don't know where you are, Hannah, but I know you're still with me. I feel you. We will never stop. I promise. The search, however, had already stopped. In the months that followed, Sheriff Eames quietly reassigned the Sergeant Hollis to another department. The mobile command unit was returned to storage. The tip line remained open, but unmanned. By the end of 2014, Hannah's case file had been relabeled. Status: cold. Investigative reopening requires probable cause or physical evidence. 2015 to 2016, 2 significant events stirred hope, both false. First, a Knoxville podcast called Carousel aired a 4-part investigation, claiming to uncover new links between Hannah's case and 2 other missing girls from 2009 and 2011. Social media ignited. The sheriff's office issued a rare public statement denying the connections. The podcast host later admitted on air that much of the timeline had been speculative. Second, in early 2016, an online forum user posted a photo claiming to show a girl matching Hannah's description at a county fair in Missouri. The post went viral. It was eventually traced to a prank account linked to a college student in Dayton, Ohio. The girl in the photo was identified, alive, unrelated. "It felt like we were being laughed at," Carla said, like Hannah's pain was entertainment now. 2017. The Winslows quietly separated. No press release, no statement. Just a line in a court filing. Irreconcilable differences. Mark moved to Asheville. Carla remained in Corley, alone in the same house, with Hannah's untouched room. She dusted the diary weekly. The lock never opened. 2018. Forensic technician Janet Bremer filed a request to rescan all physical evidence using a new multi-spectrum digital scanner available through the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation. The technology could detect residue, microfibers, even pressure pattern irregularities invisible to older tools. The results? The frog plush, clean. The notebook, no fingerprints. The backpack, zero forensic findings. The hair tie, still unconfirmed. Bremer requested permission to scan the diary. Request denied. Reason: structural risk to locking mechanism without approved key. So the diary went back to shelf 6, bin 14. Carla still went to the fair every July 27th. She sat alone by the carousel in silence. The staff allowed it. No children rode during that hour. No music played. She always brought the same thing: a yellow lily, and a single balloon, and a whispered name. CTA number 2, comment, key. If you'd never stop searching, no matter how many years passed, despite the silence, despite the ache, something still waited to be opened. The 10th summer arrived without apology. Greene County, July 2023. Heat above 94 degrees Celsius by midday, the air sharp with the scent of sun-blistered asphalt and fried dough. The fair was back in full swing, the same carousel now restored in pastel blues and golds. Children squealed with laughter. Pop music thumped over cheap speakers. Most fairgoers under 20 didn't know the name Hannah Winslow. But inside the back lot, where few wandered, a man named Luther Mathis, 66, was lifting cracked plastic bins behind the main concession stand. A janitor contracted to clean the grounds during the 2-week setup. Luther had worked the fair circuit for 30 years. That morning, his job was simple: clear out the old storage containers left over from last year's teardown. At 11:32 a.m., as he reached into the third bin, half melted by sun, filled with crumpled flyers and dead wasp husks, he saw something unusual: a glint. At the bottom, wedged between a broken tie wrap and a key ring with no fob, was a small brass key. Oval bow, decorative floral edge. On the side, etched by hand in shaky lines, H.W. Hannah Winslow. He pocketed it, uncertain, and continued working. At 2:44 p.m., while taking his lunch in the staff tent, he mentioned it to his supervisor. She froze, asked him to repeat what was engraved. She didn't say a word, just walked off and made a phone call. By 4:12 p.m., Detective Marisol Vang, part of the new Greene County Cold Case Division, held the key in a gloved hand. Her report later noted its condition as aged but unbent, no corrosion. When asked how Luther found it, she responded, "It was sitting there like it had waited 10 years. The key was rushed to the evidence unit. By 7:36 p.m., under controlled conditions, it was brought to the vault and matched to HWDY01, the pink diary. It clicked, no resistance, no catch. The lock opened clean. Inside were 37 pages, each carefully written in purple gel pen. The first 20 were mundane: thoughts about school, a list of birthday wishes, doodles of butterflies. But then, the tone shifted. July 24th, 2013. He gave me the frog. He works at the fair and said I shouldn't tell my cousins because he only had one and picked me. Said I seemed smart. July 25th. He brought me lemonade. I didn't even ask. He said I looked sad. I think he saw me cry when I thought Leah lost my phone. But he said if I ever needed to talk, he had a secret place where he eats lunch where nobody goes, behind the big trailer. He said it's ours. That was weird, right? July 26th. I saw him again. He gave me a bracelet. It was too big. He asked if I told anyone. I said no. He smiled, but it didn't feel nice. And then the final entry, written in shaky hand. July 27th, 12:42 p.m. I don't want to go back there. I told Leah I wasn't feeling good, but she said to just get lemonade and meet at the carousel. I think I'll stay near the animals instead. If I see him again, I'll run. Maybe I'll hide in the barn for a while. I feel stupid. I should have told someone. That was the last thing Hannah Winslow ever wrote. The diary was scanned, authenticated, and entered as evidentiary document HWDY01A. For the first time in a decade, there was proof that Hannah had been groomed, manipulated, by a fair worker she referred to only as he. When matched against the 2013 employee roster, only one name fit the timeline, location, and vest assignment: Jeffrey Linney. A nationwide BOLA was reissued. Interpol was contacted. But 10 years had passed. No body, no arrest, no confession, only a girl's voice, trapped in a locked book, and a key discarded in the trash. The case remains open. But the shift was irreversible. Hannah had spoken. She was never silent, Carla Winslow told press later that month. We just couldn't hear her, not without the key. A memorial was installed near the fairgrounds that September, a marble bench carved with the words, "Say something. Say it early. Say it even if you're scared." The bench faces the carousel. Every year now, children sit on it and ask their parents who Hannah was, and someone always answers. Final reflection. In the end, Hannah Winslow left behind the only thing she could, her words. She couldn't fight back. She couldn't escape. But she could write. And for 10 years, her truth waited in silence for someone to find the key, not just to her diary, but to her voice. She was not the girl who vanished. She was the girl who tried to speak,